Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let me tell you how I spent almost a decade believing that loyalty could be earned through sacrifice, only to discover that some people don't see devotion, they only see convenience. My name is Derek. I'm 42 years old, and for a long time I believed that love was measured by what you were willing to give. That belief nearly destroyed me. When I met Nicole, she was raising 2 little girls on her own. Haley was 8. Brianna had just turned 6. Their biological father had disappeared into the comfortable distance that some men call parenthood. Birthday cards arrived late. Child support arrived even later. Promises came often. Presents almost never did. I didn't step into their lives trying to replace anyone. I simply showed up. At first, I was just the man who helped carry grocery bags inside. The man who fixed the leaking kitchen faucet without being asked. The man who assembled bicycles on Christmas Eve while everyone else slept. Small things. The kind nobody notices until they stop happening. Nicole and I dated for 3 years before we got married. I still remember standing at the altar, looking at those 2 girls in matching dresses, convincing myself that I wasn't just marrying a woman. I was choosing a family. People warned me. You know what you're getting into? They're not your kids. It'll never be the same. I smiled every time. Because I believed they were wrong. I thought consistency could overcome biology. I thought showing up every single day mattered more than sharing DNA. I thought children eventually recognized who stayed beside them when life became difficult. I wanted to believe that. So I became the man who never said no. When Haley wanted to attend private school because all her friends were going, I wrote the checks. When Brianna discovered she loved soccer and needed expensive travel teams, uniforms, tournaments, and equipment, I covered every bill without hesitation. When Nicole's old SUV needed another repair that cost more than it was worth, I paid for it. When braces became necessary. When medical deductibles piled up. When birthdays came. When Christmas arrived. When summer camps opened registration. Every expense quietly found its way to my bank account. I never kept score. At least I told myself I didn't. The years passed quickly. Haley grew into a confident young woman who rarely looked up from her phone. Brianna developed a sharp sense of humor that usually came at someone else's expense. I kept working. Longer hours. Better positions. Higher salary. Not because I cared about bigger houses or expensive vacations. Because I wanted those girls to have opportunities one never had. When they started talking about college, I opened separate investment accounts for each of them. I didn't tell anyone how much I contributed every month. It wasn't supposed to be impressive. It was supposed to be normal. That's what fathers did. Or at least that's what I believed fathers should do. Nicole would occasionally thank me when another tuition payment cleared or another unexpected expense disappeared. You don't have to do all this, she'd say. But she never stopped me. Not once. The girls thanked me less and less as they grew older. At first, it bothered me. Then I convinced myself it was just adolescence. Teenagers don't appreciate anything. Everyone says that. I accepted it because I believed adulthood would change everything. One day they'd look back and understand. One day they'd realize who had been there. One day they'd see me. Hope can be a dangerous thing. Especially when it's built on silence. Haley graduated from high school first. I remember standing in the crowd with tears in my eyes while she accepted her diploma. I was prouder than I had ever expected to be. After the ceremony, families gathered for photographs. Parents hugged their children. Laughter filled the summer air. Someone asked Haley, "Who's that?" She glanced toward me. "Oh, that's Derek." Just Derek. Not my stepdad. Not the man who paid for 12 years of private education. Just Derek. The word stung. But I buried it. Again. Because I told myself titles didn't matter. Actions did. A year later, Brianna graduated too. The same thing happened. The same distance. The same invisible wall. I ignored it because ignoring pain had become second nature. Then both girls turned 18. Legally adults. Old enough to vote. Old enough to make their own decisions. Old enough, I would soon discover, to tell me exactly what they had thought of me all along. It happened during what should have been an ordinary Sunday dinner. Nicole had cooked roast chicken. The television hummed quietly in the next room. We talked about college schedules, apartment hunting, and future plans. I listened more than I spoke. I remember feeling strangely content. The college funds were healthy. The girls had bright futures. Nicole smiled more than she used to. For the first time in years, I thought maybe all those sacrifices had finally been worth something. Then the conversation shifted. Haley laughed at something Brianna whispered. They exchanged one of those looks siblings share when they've already had the conversation before everyone else arrives. I should have recognized it. Instead, I smiled. Haley set her fork down. She looked directly at me. So, can we just be honest now? I frowned. About what? Brianna leaned back in her chair. About you. The room suddenly felt smaller. Nicole lowered her eyes toward her plate. She didn't interrupt. She didn't ask what they meant. She already knew. Haley folded her arms. You've always acted like you're part of this family. I opened my mouth to answer. She never gave me the chance. You're not. Brianna nodded without hesitation. You'll never be family. Then she smiled. Not kindly. Not nervously. Almost casually. You're just Mom's ATM. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. I looked at Nicole. Surely she would say something. Surely she would remind them who paid for nearly every opportunity they had ever received. Surely she would defend her husband. Instead, she sighed. Derek. I waited. She finally met my eyes. Please don't make a scene. That was all. Not one word defending me. Not one sentence correcting them. Not one acknowledgement of 14 years spent carrying that family on my shoulders. Just, don't make a scene. In that moment, something inside me became perfectly still. Not angry. Not emotional. Just empty. Because I finally understood what 14 years had actually bought me. Not love. Not respect. Not family. Only the privilege of paying the bills. And that night, lying awake beside a woman who had chosen silence over loyalty, I realized the most expensive mistake of my life had never been the money. It had been believing that gratitude eventually arrives on its own. By morning, I had stopped grieving. That sounds cruel, even to me now. But grief requires uncertainty. Grief belongs to men who still believe something can be saved. I woke before sunrise beside Nicole, listening to her breathe softly in the same bed where I had spent years convincing myself I was loved, and I felt no uncertainty left in me. Only clarity. Cold. Clean. Final. I got out of bed without waking her. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet. The house was still dark, the kind of darkness that makes every familiar object look guilty. Framed pictures lined the hallway, school portraits, vacations, birthdays, graduations. Haley in her private school blazer. Brianna holding a soccer trophy. Nicole smiling between them. And me, always at the edge. Always slightly outside the frame. I went downstairs, made coffee, and sat in my office while the first weak light bled through the blinds. Then I opened my laptop. No rage guided my hands. Rage burns too fast. This was something heavier. I opened the college accounts first. Haley's fund. Brianna's fund. Years of automatic contributions. Years of overtime. Years of bonuses I never spent on myself. I stared at the numbers for a long time, not because I hesitated, but because I needed to see the full weight of what I had mistaken for love. Then I closed them. One by one. The money moved into an investment account under my name alone. No drama. No raised voice. Just passwords, confirmations, and a silence deep enough to bury a family in. After that, I canceled the spring trip to Florida. Fully paid. beachfront hotel, flights, theme park passes. Nicole had talked about it for months as if it were something the family deserved after a difficult year. The family. That word almost made me laugh. Almost. The travel company charged a cancellation fee. I accepted it without blinking. Losing a little money felt cleaner than spending more of it on people who had openly named my purpose at their table. Mom's ATM. I said it aloud once in the empty office. The words sounded smaller in my voice, but no less poisonous. Then I went through every automatic payment. Haley's car insurance, Brianna's phone, streaming services, gym memberships, sports fees that somehow still found their way to me. Medical deductibles Nicole never mentioned until the bill arrived. Little charges. Big charges. 1,000 invisible threads tying my labor to their comfort. I cut them all. By the time Nicole came downstairs, I was drinking my second cup of coffee. She stood in the doorway wearing her robe, her hair loose, her face tired but careful. "You're up early." "Yes." She waited for more. I gave her nothing. The silence unsettled her. I could see it. She preferred conflict she could manage, emotion she could soften, anger she could label as overreaction. But I had given her none of that. I had become the thing she feared most. Quiet. "About last night," she said. I looked at her. Her eyes flickered away first. "They shouldn't have said it like that." Like that. Not they shouldn't have said it. Not they were wrong. Not I should have defended you. Only the wording troubled her. I set my mug down. "But they meant it." Nicole wrapped her arms around herself. "They're young. They're 18 and 20. They were upset." "At what?" She didn't answer. Because there had been no injury against them. No cruelty. No insult. Just dinner. Just a conversation. Just two young women deciding the man who had carried them financially and emotionally could finally be told the truth because they believed there would be no consequence. Nicole stepped closer. "Derek, please don't turn this into something bigger." There it was again. The same instinct. Protect the peace. Protect the girls. Protect the illusion. But never protect me. I stood slowly. "It was already big. You just didn't care until I noticed." Her face tightened. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What happened last night wasn't fair." She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "What did you do?" I don't know how she knew. Maybe it was my voice. Maybe some part of her had always understood that my silence was more dangerous than my anger. I stopped paying. Her brow furrowed. "Paying for what?" "Everything that isn't my responsibility." The color drained from her face in stages. "Derek." I walked past her into the kitchen. She followed. "What does that mean?" "It means Haley and Brianna are adults. They made their position clear. I'm not family. I'm an ATM. So the ATM is closed." Her hand went to the counter as if the room had shifted. "You can't just do that." "I already did." "The college funds?" "Closed." Her voice broke. "The Florida trip?" "Cancelled." "Their insurance? Their phones? Their tuition deposits?" "If it came from me, it ended this morning." Nicole stared at me as though I had struck someone. But I had not raised a hand. I had only withdrawn one. That was what frightened her. "You're punishing them," she said. "No. I'm agreeing with them. That's not what this is." "That is exactly what this is." She shook her head, tears gathering fast now, not from sorrow for me, but from fear of the numbers forming in her mind. Mortgage. Groceries. Tuition. Cars. Health insurance. Vacations. All the things my money had quietly absorbed while everyone else lived inside the softness it created. "You know I can't cover all that," she whispered. And there it was. The first honest sentence of our marriage. I looked at her for a long moment. "I know." Her lips parted. No sound came. For years she had thanked me just enough to keep me giving, but never defended me enough to make the giving honorable. She had accepted my sacrifice as the weather accepts rain. Necessary. Expected. Unquestioned. Now the sky had closed. The first explosion came before lunch. Haley called Nicole screaming. I could hear her from across the kitchen, her voice shrill through the speaker even though Nicole had pressed the phone tight to her ear. The college portal showed her payment method had been removed. Her housing deposit had failed. The email used words like immediate attention and risk of cancellation. Words that sounded different when they came for her. Nicole paced the kitchen, one hand over her mouth, trying to calm her down. I'm talking to him. I'm talking to him right now. Him. Not your stepfather. Not Derek. Him. Brianna called 10 minutes later. Her spring trip confirmation had been cancelled. Her phone payment had failed. The card she used for gas had declined at the pump in front of her friend. Humiliation had reached her before remorse did. That was fitting. By evening, both girls were back at the house. They entered like storms. Haley came first, her face flushed, eyes bright with anger. Brianna followed with her jaw clenched and her phone in her hand like evidence in a trial. Nicole hovered behind them, pale and trembling, already defeated. I sat at the dining table. The same table. The same place where they had named me. Haley slammed her purse onto a chair. What is wrong with you? I looked up. Nothing anymore. You closed my college fund? Yes. Brianna stepped forward. You canceled Florida? Yes. You stopped my card? Yes. Haley laughed once, sharp and humorless. So you're just going to ruin our futures because of one argument? I leaned back. There it was. One argument. That was what betrayal became when the betrayer needed mercy. You didn't argue with me. I said. You identified me. Brianna rolled her eyes, but there was fear under it. Oh my God, we were mad. At what? She looked to Haley. Haley looked to Nicole. Nicole looked at the floor. No one had an answer. I folded my hands on the table. You told me I would never be family. You told me I was just your mother's ATM. I believed you. Haley's face twisted. You're being dramatic. No, I said. Drama would have been yelling last night. Drama would have been begging you to love me. Drama would have been asking your mother why she sat there like a stranger while her daughters humiliated her husband. Nicole flinched. Good. Some truths deserve to bruise. I didn't do any of that. I continued. I simply adjusted my life to match your opinion of me. Brianna's voice rose. You can't just take everything away. I didn't take anything away. I stopped giving. That money was for us. It was from me. Haley pointed at me, her hand shaking now. You promised. I promised because I thought I was helping my family. Brianna snapped. You married Mom. That doesn't make us yours. The room went silent. Even Haley froze. Because Brianna had said the quiet part again. Only this time she understood what it cost. I nodded slowly. Exactly. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I stood, not quickly, not violently, just enough for the room to remember that I was not furniture. You are not mine. You made that clear. So your tuition is not mine. Your vacations are not mine. Your gas, your phones, your emergencies, your convenience, your future, none of it is mine. Haley's eyes filled, but anger held the tears back. So what are we supposed to do? I looked at Nicole. Then back at them. Ask your family? The words landed harder than shouting would have. Nicole whispered my name. Derek, please. I turned to her. Please what? She swallowed. Don't destroy everything. I almost admired the sentence. Everything. Not our marriage. Not your trust. Not the respect we owe you. Everything meant the system. The arrangement. The quiet machine where I worked, paid, swallowed, forgave, and kept moving while they spent my life like it was theirs. "I'm not destroying it," I said. "I'm showing you what it was built on." Nobody spoke. Outside, a car passed slowly down the street, headlights sliding across the dining room wall like a searchlight. For a second, the four of us stood inside that pale moving glow, exposed and ugly and real. Then Haley began to cry. Not softly. Not beautifully. She cried like a person watching a door close from the wrong side. Brianna sat down hard, staring at the tabletop. Nicole covered her face. And I felt nothing that resembled victory. Only the dull ache of a man finally cutting off a limb that had gone rotten from neglect. That night, the house filled with whispers. Calls were made. Numbers were checked. Nicole opened her banking app again and again, as if repetition might create money. Haley emailed the financial office. Brianna called the travel company and learned that canceled meant canceled. I went upstairs alone. In the bedroom, I opened my closet and took out a small duffel bag. Not to leave forever. Not yet. But enough. A few shirts. My documents. My watch. The framed photo from my father's funeral that Nicole had once complained looked too sad for the dresser. I packed slowly. Nicole appeared in the doorway. Her face was ruined from crying. "You're leaving? For tonight. Where?" "A hotel." She stepped inside. "Derek, we need to talk. We needed to talk last night." I didn't know what to say. I zipped the bag. That was the problem. She began crying again, but I had no room left inside me for the sound. Her tears had arrived only after the money stopped moving. That timing told me more than any confession could. At the front door, Haley stood in the hallway with red eyes. Brianna was behind her. Neither apologized. Not then. Pride still had them by the throat. Haley whispered, "You're really doing this?" I looked at both of them. The girls I had fed. Protected. Driven. Funded. Loved. "Yes," I said. "For once I'm doing something for myself." Then I stepped out into the night, and closed the door behind me. The air was cold. I remember that most. Cold enough to make my lungs ache. Cold enough to feel honest. I spent the first night in a hotel less than 15 minutes from the house, yet it felt like I had crossed an ocean. The room was ordinary. Beige walls. A narrow desk. A television I never turned on. I sat by the window with the city lights flickering below, and realized something that should have frightened me. The silence felt peaceful. For years, every quiet moment in my life had been interrupted by another responsibility. Another payment. Another emergency. Another problem that somehow became mine to solve. Sitting alone in that room, I understood how long it had been since I had belonged to myself. The next morning, my phone began ringing before 7. Nicole. I let it ring. Then Haley. Then Brianna. By 8 o'clock, I had 12 missed calls and twice as many text messages. The first few were angry. "Where are you? This isn't funny. Answer your phone." Then reality started catching up with them. Nicole wrote that the mortgage payment had come out and there wasn't enough left in her account to cover everything else. She had always known I paid more than half of our expenses, but she had never realized how much more. Haley sent a screenshot from her college portal. Final notice. Payment required. Brianna sent a photograph of her declined bank card. Not one message contained the words "I'm sorry." Only panic. Only demands. Only consequences. I drove to work as though it were any other Tuesday. My coworkers noticed nothing unusual. We discussed quarterly reports, answered emails, attended meetings. It amazed me how the world continued spinning while my own life quietly collapsed. Around noon, Nicole appeared in the lobby. She looked exhausted. Dark circles framed her eyes, and her hair was tied back carelessly, as though she had spent the morning trying to solve problems that refused to move. "We need to talk," she said. I nodded toward a small cafe across the street. Neither of us ordered food. She wrapped both hands around a cup of untouched coffee. I looked at the numbers. I know. I can't do this alone. For years I had wanted to hear her admit that. Now the words brought me no satisfaction. I'd been doing it alone for a long time, I replied. Her shoulders sagged. I never realized. I stopped her gently. No. You never needed to. She lowered her eyes. I thought we were sharing everything. We were. She looked up hopefully. I shared the responsibility. I continued. You shared the benefits. The truth settled between us like wet concrete. Nicole wiped away a tear. The girls are terrified. I was too. She frowned. When? The moment they looked at me and told me I would never belong. She had no answer. Because there wasn't one. After a long silence, she whispered, They're just children. They stopped being children when they decided I existed only to finance their lives. Nicole shook her head. They didn't mean it. They repeated it. That ended the discussion. She understood exactly what I meant. Cruel words spoken once can be forgiven as anger. Cruel words spoken together, calmly, while another person stays silent. Those are beliefs, not accidents. When I returned home that evening, both girls were waiting in the living room. Haley stood first. Her confidence had disappeared. So, what now? I set my keys on the table. Now you figure out how adults solve adult problems. Brianna crossed her arms. We can't pay college tuition ourselves. I know. Haley spoke more quietly. We'll lose everything. I looked around the house. Interesting choice of words. She frowned. What do you mean? I lost everything the night you decided I wasn't family. Either sister spoke. Because, for the first time, they understood that loss wasn't measured only in dollars. Nicole entered from the kitchen carrying unopened bills. She placed them on the table without saying a word. Medical insurance. Utilities. Property taxes. Numbers covered every page. The girls stared at the stack. You paid all of this? Brianna asked. Nicole nodded slowly. He always did. It was the first time I had ever seen genuine confusion replace entitlement in their faces. Haley picked up one envelope after another. Her breathing became slower. I thought. She stopped. What did you think? I asked. She swallowed hard. I thought Mom handled most of it. Nicole closed her eyes. I couldn't have. Silence filled the room. Not the angry silence from dinner. A different kind. The silence that arrives when illusions begin breaking apart. For the first time in years, my stepdaughters weren't looking at me as an unlimited source of money. They were looking at the life they had taken for granted. And they were beginning to understand exactly who had been carrying it all along. The house changed after that evening. Not because anyone suddenly became kinder. Because reality had finally entered the room. For years, money had moved quietly behind the walls of our home. Bills disappeared before anyone worried about them. Tuition was paid before reminders arrived. Insurance renewed automatically. Cars were repaired. Medical appointments were scheduled. Every inconvenience vanished before it had the chance to become a crisis. No one had ever asked why. Now they knew. 3 days later, Haley came downstairs carrying her laptop. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked exhausted. I talked to the financial aid office. I looked up from the newspaper. And? They said the payment deadline is next Friday. I nodded. They also said? She hesitated. If I can't pay, I'll lose my enrollment for the semester. I'm sorry to hear that. She stared at me, almost expecting those words to be followed by an offer. They weren't. Brianna walked into the kitchen a few minutes later. My soccer coach asked why I missed practice. Nicole looked at her carefully. What did you tell him? That. I don't have gas money. The words barely escaped her mouth. For years she had filled her tank without thinking about it. The card always worked. She had never once wondered whose account paid the statement every month. Now she knew. Nicole sat quietly at the table, staring at a calculator beside a pile of unpaid bills. She had spent 2 full days trying to rebuild the household budget. There was no version where the numbers worked. She finally looked at me. I've been trying every possible combination. I know. It doesn't add up. I know. We're short almost $3,000 every month. I nodded again. That's what I was covering. The room fell silent. Nicole slowly leaned back in her chair. I honestly never realized. I believe you. She looked surprised. You do? Yes. I wasn't trying to hurt her. The truth was worse. She had become so accustomed to my sacrifices that she had stopped seeing them completely. Generosity had become invisible. Only its absence could be noticed. That afternoon, I came home from work to find both girls sitting in the living room without their phones. Neither television nor music filled the house. Haley broke the silence first. We've been talking. I remained standing. About what? About everything. Brianna avoided my eyes. We remember things. What things? The science camp you paid for. Haley continued quietly. My first car. The emergency room when I broke my wrist. Brianna added. The braces. The laptops. The private school. Every memory sounded heavier than the one before. Not because they had forgotten them. Because they had never connected those moments to me. Until now. Haley rubbed her hands together nervously. I guess we always thought. She stopped. What? That you were just supposed to. I smiled sadly. Nobody is supposed to. Another long silence settled over the room. Nicole finally spoke. I failed you. The words were barely louder than a whisper. I looked at her. She wasn't crying. That made them more believable. I should have stopped it years ago. I didn't answer. She continued anyway. Every time they ignored you, every joke, every disrespectful comment. She closed her eyes. I convinced myself it wasn't serious. It was easier that way, I said. She nodded slowly. Yes. It was easier for everyone. Except me. Nicole took a deep breath. I kept telling myself that because you never complained, you weren't hurting. I looked out the window. The strongest people usually complain the least. No one argued. Because everyone in that room knew it was true. Late that evening, I found Haley standing alone on the back porch. She didn't notice me at first. She was looking across the yard where I had once spent an entire weekend building a swing set for her and Brianna. She spoke without turning around. I used to tell my friends my stepdad built that. I waited. Then I stopped saying stepdad. Her voice cracked. I started saying Derek. She finally looked at me. I don't even know why. I did. Respect doesn't disappear overnight. It fades one compromise at a time. One ignored insult. One silent dinner. One excuse after another. Until eventually the person carrying everyone else's weight becomes invisible. Haley lowered her head. I don't think I ever thanked you. You didn't. I'm ashamed of that. I studied her face. For the first time since she was a little girl, I saw no entitlement. Only regret. Real regret. But regret, however sincere, could not erase 14 years. It could only decide what happened next. Inside the house, Brianna was helping Nicole organize unpaid bills. Either of them laughed. Either of them argued. The illusion that money simply appeared whenever they needed it had finally collapsed. And standing in the quiet that followed, I realized something important. They were no longer afraid of losing my money. They were beginning to fear they had already lost me.